Hi, this is Al Otto. I'm your host of the Better Be podcast, where we find ways to strengthen the 457 and 403B industry. Welcome to the Better Be podcast. I am so excited to be with David Norman today. David is the social studies department chair at the Riverside High School in Durham, North Carolina, and we're going to talk about financial literacy today. And I am based on previous conversations with David, I'm super excited to have him here. So, David, welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I think this is a great endeavor and appreciate you bringing it to Durham Public Schools.
Oh gosh, absolutely. So, uh, I saw in your information you've been teaching for 29 years.
Yes, sir.
God
Yes.
God bless you. That is it clearly it is a passion, or you wouldn't be there. And I also understand that the state of North Carolina has a state mandated economics and personal finance class that is going to be required, or were you part of building that?
Yes. So it is going to be a graduation requirement beginning with next year's senior class. I believe North Carolina is the 14th state that is mandated. A lot of that work is lobbying work's been done by Tim Ranzetta, a next generation personal finance, a personal hero of mine who's helped me build my economics and personal finance course that we've piloted at Riverside this year for the district. And yeah, so we're all trying to get social studies teachers online. It was kind of foisted in the social studies teachers' laps to handle this new education requirement, and we are doing our best to get folks ready and excited to do so. So,
That's
looking
awesome.
forward to.
So you're piloting it. What's the reception been like with students?
Well, students, just like the adults in building, certainly crave and need and want to understand how money works and how the system works, and really, to a large extent, how life works and revolves around these things. I've got some ulterior motives in teaching kids how to build wealth and how to be self-sufficient and but not just for the students, but for teachers as well. But so far, so good. I think they're fascinated by um, and whether they enjoy it or not. I think they do by the concepts of compound interest, for example.
Right,
Rarely
right.
goes by that I don't preach and get on my soapbox about the powers of compound interest. And my own children have to hear my spiel too, as well. And so their Roth IRAs, which were started long ago, have already started to show a little bit of growth. And my daughter just
Uh,
last night, very proud of her online savings account, earning money while she sleeps. So she said her first couple months of Ally Bank paying her money just to be doing the right thing. So
that's awesome. That's great. So, I wasn't sure if you were going to say yes to coming onto this podcast. What made you decide to agree?
yes, I'm not exactly sure why myself, Al, other than I do have a passion for both teaching, uh, teaching students, my own children, adults. I feel like there's this great message out there that nobody's getting, A, and that B, many people get sold a message and can't sift through the Wall Street gobbledygook that is all the tax codes, and they don't know a 403B from a 457 and a 401k, and it's needlessly complicated in my opinion. And I really find it a need out there to help people sift through all this and figure out what is the most important thing, and ultimately to help people get a better control over things so that they can focus on the things that really matter, the relationships and the time and
Sure.
the team. So
Okay. Well, that's so. What has your role, from in your teaching career? What has that played in terms of um, your role now as a financial coach to the teachers in your district?
Yeah, it's been interesting. Over my teaching career, I've always had a passion for teaching, obviously, and as I tell my students, I am a recovering stockbroker. I used to pimp IPOs coming out of undergraduate college, but that was a sales job. I learned a tremendous about how the back end of the industry works. And then, even as I just registered and signed up for my very first paycheck, my very first tax deferred deduction. In fact, I use that in one of my lessons in economics and personal finance that we start tomorrow, how to analyze a paycheck. My very first paycheck in Durham Public Schools in 1995 netted me a grand total of $1,167. But I do like to point out to my students that there's a deduction for $100 back then, and that $100 was going into my 403b. And so even back then, I had an inkling that um, I wanted to teach people how the system works. But as I went through teaching American history and psychology, I started an AP psychology program at Riverside, which inevitably led into a capstone project on time, money, and contentment. Always working in this aspect of my teaching and learning and passion. I started an AP macroeconomics course about 8 years ago now at Riverside, and that has a financial planning project, capstone project as well. And then finally bringing those two together in the economics and personal finance, which every student in the school will take. It's kind of the capstone here of the career to make sure that every student leaves Riverside High School and now the state of North Carolina. They will graduate knowing what many of the adults I speak to say every time I speak with them. Man, I wish I knew this when I was 18.
Yeah,
Um,
that's awesome. So I guess over the years you become like the lightning rod for if there's a financial question, let's go, oh, you need to go talk to David.
uh, Yes, and that's been a blessing and a curse. And thanks to Verity Asset Management and the Take 10 program, I've been screaming to the moon saying, look, folks, there are others out there like me. There are other bizarre freaks out there like me who really enjoy this stuff and understand this stuff and want to help. But we're few and far between, and our time and energies are divided. I have 90 students a day approximately that I teach, and each semester another
Wow.
90 come like, and and as do the folks in the system. So teachers have usually neither the time nor the expertise to discuss these things, but there's a desperate need for it. And certainly I and several of my colleagues who enjoy doing this can't be everywhere. And that's why Verity Asset Management, as well as the platform we have, has been really good. J.D. Lorenzo gets a lot of credit for doing her first Fridays of the month and Take 10. And uh, all of you have done a great job of trying to get teachers access to education, which has been great.
So how do you stay up to date? I mean, the things I know I know Congress changes the rules every year when it comes to retirement plan anything, or finance anything. How do you stay on top of that?
Well, fortunately, I enjoy doing that. My pleasure, guilty pleasure reading at night, every night, is reading everything from Reddit feeds to Bloomberg reports, and sometimes I do a little seeking alpha. Again, I'm a recovering stockbroker, so even though I preach index funds, broad diversity, get what the market's providing you, I still have a lot of individual stock holdings from my older days. So I enjoy reading about it. And each morning I wake up with CNBC Squawk Box at 6 a.m. So
There you
I
go.
listen to some of what I call the noise because I like to be involved. But I do also like reading about the Secure Act 2.0. I think there's a lot of neat opportunities out there. And in order for me to help people, I need to know what the contribution rates have been updated for in 2023 and 2022. So uh, I feel like there's this it's a responsibility. If you're going to try to help people, guide them, make their intelligent decisions, you need to have the right information. And so fortunately I enjoy reading about it and keeping up that way. But ultimately the gifts I give to people are books that are the standard classics like The Simple Path to Wealth or the little book of common sense investing by Jack Bogle.
Sure.
Even though I enjoy reading William Bernstein and some other folks who get really into the weeds. You don't need to get into the weeds. And so that's the long answer, as most of my answers are, to
No,
I,
that's good. That's good. So, you've also, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be the second career, but I know you've got Norman Financial Consulting or Coaching, Norman Financial Coaching built, and there's a website, normanfinancialcoaching.com. You also mentioned another website or an individual, um,
Tim Ranzetta from Next
Tim
Generation.
Ranzetta.
Yes.
And
He's
so go ahead.
No, I'm saying it's an outstanding resource for teachers, and it's the backbone of what I hope to be the finished product of our economics and personal finance course. It's completely free, and his mission, and he's very passionate about it. I was fortunate enough to meet him in Los Angeles when I went on a DPS sponsored trip to LA to train to teach teachers right before the pandemic, and he's just doing tremendous work.
That's
And
great.
but yeah, and I'd also like to add the podcasting. I'm a huge podcast fan, so when I work out or go walk or I have a long drive to a daughter's practice or a game, there are a gazillion podcasts out there, and it's all free, and some of them are pretty entertaining and fun as well.
That's good. That's good. Well, I so appreciate you being on this podcast. I think that our listeners have got a lot of good information from someone who's really in working in the weeds, right? You know, working with people who have a need, and teachers certainly have a need. It's very
Yeah.
important. So, uh, for those of you listening, normanfinancialcoaching.com is one place to go. And David, I so appreciate you being here. And if you
Well,
have some final comment, we'd love to receive it.
Yeah, there's so many final comments, but the one takeaway I would say is just don't be afraid to ask. This stuff can look confusing. It's designed to be confusing. There are no silly questions, and we who do this for passion or for fun or for a living speak a whole language that is foreign to a lot of folks. And sometimes I need to check myself and slow my roll and remember just because I say tax deferred or tax free or taxable, not everyone understands what that means. So feel free to ask, and there's lots of free, great resources. And I find a lot of people have paralysis by analysis. They get overwhelmed and they don't do something. So take action, get some help, ask someone who's been doing it, someone you trust, and that'd be it.
Excellent, excellent advice, and I'm sure that the your peers at Riverside High School are very thankful that you're there. We're thankful that you've been here, and I'll look forward to the next conversation.
Well, great. Thank you very much, Al. And thanks to everyone at Verity Asset Management, too, for all the help and education you're doing.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay.
This podcast is brought to you by Ventana, providing you plan governance services to engage, inform, and measure